Party of two. I need a party of two. A party of two, please.
Party of two over here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Party of Two podcast. I'm one of your hosts, the Internet's Mark B. Donica.
And I am your other host, Andrea Donica.
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Last episode, we had Ty Matthews talking about his haunt experience. He told a little bit about Sleep No More, which is something that we definitely got to do because it's the Scottish play reimagined. We're doing a show. We can't necessarily do it. I told him... Did I tell that on air? I don't remember if I told it on air or not.
You did.
Okay.
It was a good episode, and 100% true. I'm definitely very interested in checking this out.
We gotta go, but today, in keeping with the spooky theme, we're gonna be jumping all over the place. But today, we're releasing this on the day, or recording the day we're releasing it, and a report came out today that featured a full breakdown of California Adventure's Marvel offerings.
Woo!
Which is we've prognosticated a little bit about the status of this, what the Spider-Man ride has to be, and what's going on, and we got all but a confirmation.
Yeah, essentially. Have you done any research into what the Disney Cruise Line has for the Doctor Strange show?
I have not. I've been producing another show all day.
That's fair. No, I took a look at it. So one of the new attractions that's going to be coming is going to, of course, be, as we've heard before, something within the Sanctum Sanctorum with Doctor Strange. And of course, at this point, we can only guess because, we're still getting some information. We don't have all of the details yet. And of course, Disney wants to leave a few surprises for us. Mm-hmm. But on the Disney Cruise Line, they actually have a stage show with Doctor Strange. And he takes kids out of the audience and trains them in the arts. And it's really, really cool. They use some really fantastic stage effects, really cool special lighting effects. And the possibilities for what this can be, I'm hoping that they're going to do something a little bit different and build even more upon it, especially since there's going to be a fully fledged attraction that they'll be able to build from the ground up. Mm-hmm. But I think audience interaction would be absolutely 100% a strength of what I saw from this Disney Cruise Line experience and what could be brought into the parks. I always think of how wonderful the Jedi Training Academy has always been over in Tomorrowland, and now that is temporarily at least done while they're building Galaxy's Edge. We're crossing our fingers that it might move over there, but Disney hasn't given confirmation on that. Mm-hmm. So in that same vein, Disney might need to find a new show in that same character and intention, and involving children in the audience, I think, is always a great idea, and bringing them up on stage is always so much fun.
This sounds like a combination of Jedi Training Academy and Belle's storytelling from Walt Disney World, where we've had a great experience. We got to see Phantom of the Opera in Las Vegas and they built that theater around those effects, and in a similar thing where it's one thing to have a cruise ship where you have a theater with certain availabilities to you, but by being able to build your own set for this and being able to travel through, I wonder if there'll be a mirror dimension room, or you'll have a kid using a sling ring and the audience be able to travel through it into another location or something like that. The possibilities are really cool. And there is such limited real estate when it comes to the Marvel experience at California Adventure, having a show building with a couple of walking tours it changes. It sort of brings back also an old idea, and it becomes a museum of the strange as opposed to a museum of the weird.
Oh my gosh, if they use that name.
They probably don't.
I mean, probably
it's not. It's not as marketable.
No, but it scratches that hardcore Disneyland fan itch that's in my soul.
But
it makes
there's
me
also
feel good and warm
there's
inside.
such an opportunity for there's somebody I really want to talk to about this. A friend of mine who's a huge Doctor Strange fan, dresses looks very similar look. Matt Key, he's a huge Doctor Strange fan, beyond
they
huge.
might need to cast for Doctor Strange.
I mean,
so perhaps that will be a new opportunity for him. I don't know if that would be an exciting opportunity for him.
I mean, he's a producer at Geek and Sundry. He
fair
doesn't
enough.
necessarily need an acting job, but I think
if you get to fly around as Doctor Strange, that
God.
might be kind of worth it.
Descend from the using the cloak of levitation. Man. Yeah, so I initially, when I first read this article, I was like, okay, cool. But then letting this gestate a little bit, I was like, oh, what what other realms can you go into? Is Nightmare going to show up? Blackheart, they're not anybody that's shown up on screen yet. But you'll probably the Zealots might show up, the Caecilius and Zealots, or some version of Dormammu. Maybe you hear Dormammu's voice or something like that. But already this is just this is that deep dive Marvel stuff. This is going to be like all of the adults that are standing in the wand selection ceremony.
Yeah.
Like when we were there with our dear friend Kristen, and she was crying.
Bless her.
I still can't believe that she got picked. It's like...
Well, she was very obviously so excited to be there, and they saw how proudly we were holding her like parents, even though she's our age.
Well, no, I mean, she's our daughter. She's our collective daughter. Me, of course, being her mother. You, of course, being her father.
Of course.
So, one of the biggest sort of confirmations that we got was about the Spider-Man ride.
Yeah.
And this is very surprising to me. It's using a lot of the land from It's Tough to Be a Bug, and the entrance is reportedly going to be around the tissue box restrooms. And it's going to be a shooter. A screen-based 3D, possibly, shooter similar to Midway Mania, which very... very surprising.
I was a little surprised at that, though I will say this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a few episodes ago when we were dreaming things up. The fun thing for me about Spider-Man films, at least, is you feel like you're flying with Spider-Man as you're shooting webs across and jumping through the city. So I'm wondering right now, is that what it's going to be? Or are we taking out bad guys with webs? Or what is going to be the task for shooting the webs?
I think it's difficult with the Spider-Man franchise because now that it's spread across 2 studios, and having not seen it yet, we can't really talk about Venom and the future of Venom.
Yeah.
But it's sort of... best word I can use is disjointed. It's in a couple of different places. We don't know if Venom will eventually join, and all of that movie will join, or if any of the other stuff that Sony has involved for their Spider-Verse is going to join. So by sort of genericing it up, it's the best way to sort of protect. You can also update that if it is screen based, as we've seen with Star Tours. They can update that, and they can change it and possibly make it a little bit more current. Have it themed towards Far From Home, or Far From Home's gonna be out by the time this opens, so it could be already themed to Far From Home.
That's true.
Or whatever it comes next. So I don't know what the story is here, because it makes sense with toys. It makes sense with the Space Ranger, and with it being specifically Spider-Man as opposed to being like a SHIELD attraction where you're like, as we talked about in the thing, where it's more like Men in Black. I don't know where this fits. We're gonna go on it,
right? And I'm sure it's going to be amazing and a ton of fun either way. I mean, how many kids and adults have fantasized about just going spiderweb? Shh.
I mean, that specifically,
Yeah.
probably a lot.
Yeah.
But did you ever did you ever remember the first webbing toy that existed? Did you ever have one of those?
No.
Oh God, was it my favorite thing? And my parents hated it.
Oh,
It was a thing. It was a thing that strapped onto your wrist and with a little trigger that you could thwip, and it was just a can of silly string. But it was tabbed specifically to where you had to get the specific like quote web fluid sort of stuff. But it was the best thing, and I was just like, "Ooh, Spider-Man!" I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So if there's a way for people to live that. Though without having it like mounted on your wrists, like it's not the same thing. So I wonder how they're going to get that experience.
What if it is going to partially be slightly VR in that your ride vehicle will have some sort of hand
Motion
attachment to your hand, or maybe it would be a motion tracker? I would imagine... I'm still learning more. I haven't revealed too much to myself about the new Avatar attractions.
Oh, yeah. We've been kind of keeping it until we experience it.
But I know that part of it is a virtual reality experience. And I'm wondering if maybe in the same vein, they would be able to attach something to the rider's hands that would connect somehow to the screens. And so when you press a button, just in that same vein, it'll shoot out and you'll see it in real time on the screen.
Hey, you know what Disney product a lot of people take to a particular theme park attached to their wrist that has a lot of their information on it and has sensors on it?
Oh, yeah.
A Magic Band.
Woo-woo-woo.
So it's a different type of sensor, but if you could adjust the Magic Band to be upside down, dominant hand, whatever it is, no, it doesn't quite fit because it's the palm. But I don't see why Disney couldn't also offer, here's 3D glasses and your web shooter and your prototype web shooter or this or that. And it's not an apparatus, but it's just a bracelet that has a sensor coming up to your palm so that you can just do the thwippy-doo. And there are sensors on the ride vehicle or whatever. But it'll be hard if this is just, hey, here's a gun that shoots web, and it won't have that same sort of, I felt like I was a Spider-Man. Or what if, it's hard, but what if this is a Spider-Verse ride where everybody that comes in is a spider person, is a spider human from a different universe. And that'll be hard to tell, but if it's more than, if you get those poster spiders of Gwen, Miles, and Peter that are leading. Oh my god! I just blew my own mind. I want it to be this so bad, but it's not going to be. But if it's a Spider-Verse ride where it is animated and it's that unique Sony animated design, oh my god, that would change everything. Flip-a-doo!
Mark's brain is exploding currently.
I'm very excited, and I really want to curse, but I'm not going to do it. Something that I didn't notice on the poster, despite looking at it because it was so far off in the background.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Giant beer can.
Yeah.
And so there's plans to have a microbrewery, which is already funny that it's Ant-Man themed, and it looks like just a beer place, but that it's a giant can. I'm fine with that. And you get a little bit of that Bugs Land nostalgia
That's
in
true.
there.
I wonder, they'll probably have an Easter egg or two somewhere within the brewery.
I would hope
Microbrewery.
I can't imagine it being too large. Again, just because of placement and how much space there actually is there, and how much they're cutting down in between Hollywood and this new land. So it can't take up too much space,
Yeah, that's true. Still, though, we do like drinking over in California Adventure, and I'm sure that people are going to be flocking to it like crazy once it opens. So they're going to need to have a decent amount of capacity for the place.
Yeah, and they'll get a good selection too, I imagine.
I'm kind of envisioning on the inside of the microbrewery, something akin to multiple places that we see in San Francisco, like.
That's a good point, because Ant-Man takes place in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. What is the restaurant I'm trying to say right now? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Bread?
Yeah, bread. Boudin. Oh man, if they could
Not too far.
Yeah, it is too far.
But if they have San Francisco brews, there's a couple of good places there. But I assume they'll have a lot of local stuff too.
Yeah.
There's too many good places out here for them to not go local.
Absolutely.
But I wonder if there will be a proprietary beer. 'Cause similarly to how Universal has Duff, even though Duff isn't necessarily proprietary, I wonder if Disney would do anything.
Well, I think they might expand with like Ballast Point, for example. Those beers.
I wonder who they would go with. Ballast Point is a good choice.
Yeah.
What's Golden Road out here?
Yeah.
They just opened a secondary brewery in Anaheim, and
their name is going all over the place right now.
Good.
They are very good.
Really delicious. So that's kind of all of the phase 1 stuff that was discussed, which I didn't even think that, this is going to come out in a couple of different phases, especially for this one. The Avengers e-ticket attraction has been rumored to be a roller coaster. It's all but confirmed to be a roller coaster, but it's going to be huge. It's going to be rather large, and I haven't heard any talk of it being comparable to Rock and Roller Coaster yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, from its origins of this rumor, people were talking about it being in the size and scope of Rock and Roller Coaster. At least with the details that were just announced, they still seem to be pretty sparse in terms of specifics for it, especially since it is part of phase 2.
Yeah.
Phase 1 has to go strongly enough, and Disney has to be feeling open enough with their pockets to continue on to phase 2. That's always what makes me anxious about anything that isn't part of the first phase. Anything.
That's interesting to me, though, that a Doctor Strange walkthrough show is considered a safe bet when it comes to this, and we're going to hold off on the giant, huge in scope Avengers roller coaster, which, theming or not, roller coasters do well.
Right. No matter what, they're a safe bet. That is pretty interesting. Well, and I mean, truthfully, with Doctor Strange, we don't know if it's a walkthrough. Just we know where it's going to go and realistically how much space it has.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to see. I really want everything to go well. I do feel that regardless of how phase 1 does, that does give us a better hope for the roller coaster to come to fruition, but I really wish they would just start working on it now.
And at the same time, with Galaxy's Edge opening up the year before, they're gonna be fine. With budget, because there's no expansion, at least in California, planned for Galaxy's Edge. There's really nowhere else that they can go unless they take out. I mean, I don't know. I legitimately
Toontown.
Unless they take out Toontown. That's really it. Or the festival area is gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't have the real estate in either park, really, because for Walt Disney World, it's going to be the hotel. So they don't necessarily have plans for phase 2. No, we're good with this. This is everything that everybody will want. And if anything, they'll pull a Harry Potter and next gate it, and then give you a way to travel from one to the other.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I can think of. But even with Disneyland, that's tricky. That's very tricky.
It's always tricky doing any sort of expansion. We have limited space, and Disney has to keep navigating their partnerships with the city of Anaheim.
Mm-hmm. And what a weird skyline this is going to be for California Adventure. Because I wonder if you'll be able at the right... No, maybe not. You'll see the Cadillac Range, and then Avengers Tower, and then the Collector's Tower in the distance, Bear Mountain, and the roller coaster and Incredicoaster. or the or Pixar Pal Around, or whatever it's called now.
Ugh. Too many freaking name changes.
But this all came from internal documents. And so where this came from, thank you. But at the same time, yeah, we kind of knew.
Yeah.
But it's good to have like a little bit more information. And if they decide to really blow out the Doctor Strange thing, I think that has an opportunity to become California Adventure's Wand experience.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Could you imagine them handing out little plastic sling rings to kids? And
that
then
would
being
be
like,
so
you gotta keep working on it. Just keep working on it. It only works in the Sanctum Sanctorum, but here, have this souvenir. I don't know. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about was a fun television special that Disney aired that lifted the curtain of how the sort of the park transforms, their parks rather, and cruise lines transform into their seasonal Halloween biz. And we have seen similar features like this. It was called Decorating Disney Halloween Magic.
Yeah.
They did one for the holidays last year, which we didn't have a podcast then, or we probably would have talked about it. But we've seen specials like this. It's a lot of, hey, visit the parks now, and this, and that. And
it's usually pretty short in terms of its length. Mm-hmm. Very, very basic, sparse on information. But, hey, look at all these pretty things. Come visit us.
Tickets are on sale now.
Yeah. This special felt a lot more special and connected to humanity and their cast members and the special stories behind their lives and their connections to the parks and to the history of Disney entertainment. And I thought it was an absolute delight to watch. I especially was floored by the fact that they only have 2 hours to dress up the Disney Cruise Line for their Halloween decorations. 2 hours after they dock, they have to wait for all of the guests that were just on the cruise line to get off, while all of the other guests are waiting to board. They just have exactly 2 hours to put everything together. They have to put up this big Halloween tree, all of the lighting and the bunting, all of the decorations. That's a huge task.
Well, it makes sense because how often does a cruise ship come into dock?
Yeah.
It sucks. But it totally makes sense because they're unloading all of the trash, they're loading in all of the fresh food. They're especially with Disney, the turnover rate has to be that tight.
Yeah.
And I can imagine being one of the families that comes in for that first Halloween cruise and is just like has no idea.
Yeah.
You could have been somebody that was in this special that saw a thing. Oh, they're filming for whatever. Great, it's Disney, whatever. But not only to see all of the stuff that they offer that's specifically Halloween themed, but the fact that it's the same teams. We got to see the two members of the decorations team at Walt Disney World, and then go over to the dock and transfer all of the Halloween stuff onto the ship. And one of my favorite moments there, either a head steward or a somebody higher up was just like, all right, we've got guests embarking on at this time. They're like 3:45, like 3:45 then. Like, oh, decorations. It's not like whatever, this ship has to go. It's like, no, the guest experience comes first.
Absolutely.
And that's something that seemed like a less scripted moment. And even there was a lot of really solid moments in this special. Some of them felt like, oh, let's do this because we're shooting a special and we're focusing on a couple of cast members. But that specific moment, because it felt like a wild grab.
Yeah.
That the editor went, all right, we need a little bit more drama. Let's put this part that I bet they probably didn't even know was on camera, even though they were shooting everything.
Well, they were definitely trying to have their most Disney cast member faces on throughout the entire special, of course.
Yeah.
But I can say for myself personally that 11:45, not 11:15, 11:45. I've had those negotiating moments when I've been about to open a show.
Yeah.
And that's a very real conversation that anybody has when they're putting on something big and spectacular for other people to see.
Yeah. We got a lot of fun looks at the different Halloween offerings that Disney offers. And when it came to our home parks, we got to see the Cars Land transformation with two elder Imagineers.
Yeah.
That was a nice story of friendship. And we got to see, I'm forgetting his name. Hold on. Carlos, yeah.
Yeah.
Carlos with a K, who him and the baking team that have been in charge of making all of the gingerbread houses for Nightmare Before Christmas or Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And
since the beginning.
18 years.
Yeah.
Since the year 2000.
That's amazing. They've every single one of them has been doing this since the first inception of this overlay. That's really, really special. And they all were very, very attentive to the detail. I mean, you can see it just in the work that they've done every single year with the gingerbread house. But to see them placing the coffin-shaped tiles on the house was just wonderful.
But even some of the again, the in-between stuff that adds to the reality of it. Like, no, don't make it so clean. Like, it's just just splurt it on a little bit.
And then the transferring of things into the parks I found very interesting as well. Like, for example, they couldn't finish decorating everything inside of the bakery. They wanted to do the last final touches within the mansion. So they did this Carlos cam following this giant gingerbread house, going through all of these hallways, down this fancy elevator, passing by cobwebs hanging in the mansion, through a door. Just absolute insanity and really incredible to watch.
I can imagine the production team being like, okay, we've got the Steadicam. We're going to come through and they're like, we don't have clearance for that. Like, there's no physical clearance. It's like, all right, give Carlos a GoPro. Or something. We'll give him a GoPro Hero 6 or something that's 1080 high def, like 4K, whatever, and it'll be as good as it can be. And it looked fine, but it added a human element to it as opposed to a lot of this stuff that looks like business promotional material.
Yeah.
But speaking of the human element, I loved all of the stories that we got with the various cast members of, I saw this and I didn't know that people actually did that, or especially with Carlos and him getting emotional over his family.
Yeah.
The lead, the main diva, who's Taffeta, who played Taffeta in the Florida parade,
and falling in love with one of the grave diggers.
And we got to see the grave diggers.
That was so cool with the shovels and the sparks. That looks amazing.
Just a couple of spooky boys.
Yeah.
And there was also Antonio, who helped do the Fab Five pumpkins up front.
Yes.
And brought his grandma. And
that was so cute.
Anytime, because it was very relatable. Some people might have been like, "Oh, grandma, whatever," but everybody knows that grandma is proud or grandpa is proud.
Yeah.
But they're just like, dang it, I'm on TV and I don't want to be. I just want to be at Disneyland. Dang it, and I know that this is a free ticket, but whatever. But I could tell that it was there, and they're like, "Oh, that's fantastic!" Like, it's just. That was a very real moment.
And then them all taking selfies with whomever they were with at the time. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, it's a very nice special. You can find it online. If I remember correctly, it was on Freeform.
Yes.
They aired it on Freeform, and somebody from a Freeform show hosted it, and they showed some food, some this, some that. What did you think? What of the stuff do you want to experience, the cruise ship more or the Mickey's Not So Scary?
Mickey's not so scary in Magic Kingdom. I really want to see that parade for myself now in person.
Yeah.
It looks great. The fact that they have the hitchhiking ghosts in the parade and the grave diggers, and also just being able to do all of the Halloween stuff in Magic Kingdom in Orlando in a bigger space intrigues me, because Disneyland gets so full during Halloween time, and it drives me a little crazy. I always say to people, they're like, oh, Christmas is definitely the busiest time, and I say, that's what you think, but realistically, to me, it feels like Halloween gets busier than Christmas for one specific reason. Because Disney always anticipates the ginormous crowds for Christmas, so they staff it more properly in that way. They have everything maxed at capacity with all their cast members, with all of the rides going. But during Halloween time, because they also have the party going and they have reduced hours, they have to stagger things a little bit differently. So everything feels more congested. And I get claustrophobic, not gonna lie. So the fact that Magic Kingdom has all this space and all of this room and such a fantastic parade. I'm usually not a big parade person for the parks, but this one having the theme park element within it intrigues me greatly.
Well, when it comes to parades, I don't think anybody can beat Tokyo. Because Tokyo's, especially during Halloween, sometimes they nail it. Like, it's super high energy and villain heavy and all that sort of stuff. But I missed the time when we didn't have the Halloween party here, because when we had the Halloween specific fireworks and all of the sort of being in there after hours and late, and then the green lighting and the this and that made it so special. It was sort of nice just to be there. I understand why.
Of course.
And they have to combat the annual pass holder crowds that descend. And they're trying to pump every dollar that they can out of them. Makes sense. They're a business.
Yeah.
But I agree. I would like to experience, at least, if it came to a cruise or Florida, I would rather experience the cruise standard first.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is we got to, if you get a chance to experience anything, seeing it how it's more regularly presented, I would figure is the more common option. Similarly to why Walt Disney World doesn't do Haunted Mansion Holidays, because it's much more of a destination, and let alone you miss the Haunted Mansion. What if you go while it's closed and they're remaking it and while they're gussying it up, as opposed to here? So I would say Walt Disney World, we've experienced it standard. Let's experience it in the holidays. I'm really jealous of my brother. He's getting to do it at a transitional time where he gets to see it during Halloween and during Christmas, and he's actually going to the after hours Christmas party, and he's going to rock the heck out of some left reindeer. But this is a really fun special. I think everybody should seek it out if you're listening to this, just because it's a fun look and some great human interest stuff.
Yeah. And it reminds you of just why you love the parks, especially around the holidays.
And it's weird to say the holidays that include Halloween in it.
It is, but that is how it is at Disney theme parks.
When it comes to holidays, it's one of them. So, all right, so for the final segment that we want to do, we're jumping a little bit into the Beyond Blue Sky area of the show. And I had this fun idea that what if some attractions that we're fans of, we love, they deserve a Halloween overlay. Why doesn't, technically Haunted Mansion is its own overlay, but at the same time, technically Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween overlay, a Halloween and Christmas overlay. Ghost Galaxy, and the entirety of
Cars Land,
and Mater's has the Halloween overlay. So what other, and this is again not necessarily just Disney, but what attraction deserves a Halloween overlay, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Do you want to go first, Andrew, or do you want me to go first?
I will go first.
Go ahead. And
I actually have two.
You have two?
I have two because I couldn't make up my mind. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
I have been doing a lot of Universal heavy things for the past couple of episodes, so I did want to focus on Disney this time around.
Okay.
And I know that for both of these things that I'm going to bring up, most likely never going to happen.
Sounds great.
So this is just my pie in the sky, what I wish I could see. I will say that when you and I went over to Disneyland Paris and we experienced their Frontierland, I was in awe at how the entire story was connected to Phantom Manor and the Ravenswood family, and the curse connected to the mines and the train and the family and everything else. And I have always found it interesting for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad that they call it a runaway mine train, but they never explain why the train is a runaway mine train. They just say, it's a runaway mine train. They don't have an impetus of really when that begins. It just, you go up a hill and then you start going around like crazy, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I have always thought that it would be interesting to actually make that curse and that spooky element a little more prevalent. I'm not 100% sure how I wouldn't per se make it as in-depth as Frontierland in Disneyland Paris, because that is more an overarching theme that really just needs to continue on throughout the entirety of the year.
Yeah.
As opposed to a Halloween overlay. But I think it would be kind of cool if there were some elements of some former miners that didn't make it out of Big Thunder Mountain so well. You know, we know...
Oh, I thought you were like, the Phantom breaks out of the manor and starts wreaking havoc on Frontierland. Okay.
Yeah, more there is some sort of curse within these mines. I was thinking more along the lines of a sacred land that has been trampled on by settlers, and the spirits within it are taking the area back and wreaking havoc on guests.
Terrifying.
Yes.
You can be careful, and if you're careful enough with that subject material, sure, you could probably do that.
I think it would be an interesting aspect, especially since they also had the Dia de los Muertos.
Nailed it.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Area just next to Big Thunder. I think that it would be interesting to just incorporate ghosts and spirits into that area a little bit more.
Yeah.
In American culture and going through United States history and Native American history and everything else, we have all of these sacred areas of land that haven't necessarily been always respected. And that is an integral part of what has formed this country and different layers. And I know that Disneyland overall usually looks at history with rose-tinted glasses, but we also have that element in all of these attractions where something goes wrong and then this happens.
You can make it a realistic... something definitely did go wrong on these lands.
Yes.
It was us.
And I think that that would be something really interesting. I would like to see a little more Native American acknowledgement and respect inside of Frontierland.
Especially since we lost the village.
Yeah.
Like, the village, say what you want about it, there was a presence. At least there was a presence.
And it was an actual Native American community that was a part of it. So I would like to see that incorporated more. If they were to do it, it would need to be very tastefully done, of course, very respectfully done. But I think that that would be a really intriguing element. And something that would probably be pretty easy to do with the attraction itself, just in a few key scenes, indoors primarily. And if I were to just have that impetus moment of something going wrong within the Rainbow Caverns as you're going up the lift hill, to the side, an apparition would appear, essentially saying, "You have damaged our sacred lands. Prepare to meet your doom," or something else like that.
I mean,
or a more
we'll workshop it.
Pay the price of your poor decisions.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a careful line to tread upon.
Exactly.
But
which
that's
is
one
why
of those
I would
things
say
where
it needs to be carefully
if done to the nth degree, well, it could be something pretty fantastic. Do you want to do your other one, or do you want me to do mine and we'll come back to you?
I will throw my other one out there while we're on it. So for this one, I would be jumping over to California Adventure.
Okay.
And this is really more something that I would just like to see be there permanently, but if we're just gonna go with Halloween overlays, then I would take it as well. I love Gravity Falls so much, and the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail has always, to me, seemed like a very obvious place for a connection with that television series. I would like to see an overlay where you're helping Dipper and Mabel gather clues throughout the trail. You can still climb through things, explore, but to translate different codes and different things of that nature. And look out for Bill Cipher, because he's got some tricks up his sleeve in some certain places that you have to be wary of. And just random weird things, because that's just what Gravity Falls is a place for.
I wonder how much I would love to see that extend into a little bit more than just the challenge trail. Like if back in the day when they had the Disney afternoon takeovers of certain things, and it was like a huge deal, if Bill Cipher took over the entirety of the Redwood area.
That would be cool.
And Soren, maybe not Soren.
No,
maybe not Soren.
Soren has kind of,
but maybe
it's still a little separate.
Grizzly Peak.
Yeah.
Maybe Grizzly Peak becomes something that Bill takes over, and the experience becomes weird. You go through a couple of the caves and you can see some bizarre weird things starting to come through. But yeah, Gravity Falls, anything would make for an amazing, and even if it's Halloween, you could have a Summerween crossover, and you could have the creeper.
They start the overlay in the summer, so it stretches out even further.
Exactly. From Summerween to Halloween, you've got a Gravity Falls experience. And it's hard now because the show's over, but oh boy, would that be great.
Yeah.
And that seems like a no-brainer, but you can never tell, like, oh, they knew it was going to be so short, so they didn't want to have a stamp in the parks. There are reasons as to why. I don't like them.
I don't like them either.
But there are reasons.
I keep crossing my fingers that they will make some sort of a Gravity Falls movie in the future, or just something jumping ahead a few years.
Alex Willing. Because I think he needs a break from Disney for a minute.
Well, sure.
He's going to go crazy on his new Netflix series,
yes.
and then be like, all right, pull me back.
Please. Because I still see all those fun little Gravity Falls knickknacks in Hot Topic, and I still miss the show.
Yeah, they're still releasing
so much.
everything. Disney's flexing that brand, but they're not doing anything in the parks with it, which, oh boy.
And it's just, it was such a good show.
Yeah. We watched an episode recently that was just like, oh man, why is the show gone?
Why stop? And then have like a little petting zoo area just to pet, just pigs and then the weird goats.
Oh yeah, I forgot the goat's name.
I think they just called him the goat.
No, Dipper name dropped him in the episode that we watched. I totally, like Gobbers or something like that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So staying in the world of animation, but switching parks. This was a no-brainer to me. I still don't know why Universal hasn't done this. It seems beyond obvious to me that this area of the park is going to be like this for a while, and it's so synonymous with this property. Why hasn't there been a Treehouse of Horror for the Simpsons ride?
Mm-hmm.
That makes literally no sense to me, because lending to the cheapness of Krusty Land, all of the stuff is cardboard cutouts, and I wrote it yesterday. So walking through everything again, I was like, you can replace this and that and this and that. And in the queue, they're just cycling through old theme park themed, and even in Duff Gardens, they're just cycling through theme park themed and Duff themed stuff. Switch that up to just best of Treehouse of Horror, and arguably Treehouse of Horror is the only time of year where people tune back into The Simpsons. There's still a viewership for The Simpsons, but when people go, oh, Treehouse of Horror is coming up, that's when people tend to tune back in a little bit. And it can just be sort of a cycle. You can pull a Transformers. It's the same exact ride as Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So in this case, it's the same exact ride, same exact experience. You go through the same motions, though it could really... That ride needs to go down for a little bit because it was rough. When I went on it yesterday, it beat me up.
Yeah.
Like old school Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I don't remember a time when that ride was down, and they have so few rides up.
That's
like
true.
while they're prepping for Halloween Horror Nights, they take Simpsons down for a little bit. They refurbish it a little bit, clean it up a little bit, tighten it up, switch it over to Treehouse of Horror, and bring it down for another couple of days, put it back up in time for Christmas, whatever. But it seems so easy. It's a lot of it. You put a witch's hat on Krusty, or you put some like Frankenstein's monster sort of bolts in the neck. You put like wigs on all of the Simpsons or whatever. It seems so easy, inexpensive. The only thing that you have to do then is make new ride animations, is for the safety video, the intro, everything, and then you have to make the new ride video. So but even that, well, I'll say this then. Getting the cast back will probably be as expensive as refurbishing Jurassic Park to Jurassic World is going to be, because that's an expensive cast.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the animation side of it isn't as difficult as fabricating all of this new material for this new ride. So I figure with, how many years are we in? 4 or 5 years of the Simpsons ride?
I think so.
Something
Might
like that.
Be
because it was
more.
before 2015, because 2015 was Future Hill Valley. So about 2013, 2014, so 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So and they have the Duff land, they have the whole land in Florida, so you just spread that out a little bit more. It seems like such a no-brainer to me. Like how hasn't this happened yet? And you want to extend this a little bit more. Like the Simpsons are probably going to be there for a while, unless even when the Simpsons eventually go off of TV, that ride's still going to be there for a couple more years. And the only thing that I can imagine changing is Hollywood, because they run out of space.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I can think of. But it feels like it all... Yeah. Why?
He's so upset right now.
Treehouse of Horror is the best. It's so good. Man. Anyway,
Well.
This ride operator has been real mad at us, just sort of staring a hole through us, like nodding along. They've been nodding along and like, okay, all right, I see. But we should probably get on this ride.
Yeah, probably.
Before we go, though.
Yes. Everyone, I have changed my handles to be a little more consistent. So now you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at DoleWhipDrea.
How on brand.
I know.
How very on brand. And the weird thing is that you had that username on another
I did.
social media account, and you were like, "Oh, what a great idea!"
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It was a great idea.
It was just a little name just sitting in the back of my head. I just needed to scoop it back up again.
It's back.
Yeah.
If you're listening to us for the first time, please make sure to listen to all of our older episodes, especially our episode with Ty Matthews. That was a lot of fun to sit down with him. And I learned so much. I found a video of the Undertaker walkthrough that we talk about. But we have a lot of fun doing this show, and we appreciate your support. If you could please go to iTunes or the Google Play Podcast Store, leave us a review. Please leave us a review. We'll read it on air. We'll shout you out. We appreciate
Some stars, please.
We love you. And we're on YouTube right now too. We're right now we're just putting the podcast up, but we have a lot of ideas for video content. And that's just going to take a little bit of extra time. We need a little bit more of a viewership before we can start sort of devoting that extra time. But we definitely have it in mind. I'm thinking about putting these recordings live through my Twitch channel, Inventory Full PT, where I cast with friends of ours, Stacy, Nate, and we cast relatively frequently, so make sure to give us a follow there. You can follow me on Twitter, @MarkBDonica. I work on a lot of stuff. He
really does.
I really do. Like, I came from working on a thing to come do this thing, and then tomorrow I'm working on like 3 things. It's great.
It's a miracle that I'm seeing him for this right now.
My wife. Please follow the show also at Party of 2 Pod. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Party of 2 podcast. We'll see you on the next ride.